Good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Thank you so much for joining me here on November 5th, which is our Women in Wellness Wednesday. It is open mic. So if there are any women out there that would like to join the show today, just give me your feedback. If you'd like to talk about the election results that have happened in different parts of the country, or you actually may live in those different parts of the country that you might want to share your view on the results, please let me know and I will send you a link to join me here live on the show. And Patty Cakes is joining us this morning, and she says, "Good Grand Rising founder and Grand Rising to you as well." So we're going to get started. I'm sure many of you have heard that Zohran Mamdani, he is now the new mayor of New York City. People have actually elected a Democratic socialist. It just lets you know like where our politics are. And in my opinion, the reason why he got voted in is he was saying a message that people wanted to hear. People really want relief, right? They want relief, they want results. Um, a lot of people don't understand the cruelty behind socialism. And so they're just like, yeah, we want free this, we want free that, but things aren't free. They look free, right? It looks like, hey, government, we have enough money to take care of this. But here's the deal. Everything shouldn't come from the government. We need to actually work, right? And have businesses that pay fair taxes, right? Into the system collectively, right? So it's kind of interesting collectively, so that resources are there, right? For the city to run properly: streets, roads, your police officers, your fire department, your schools, right? Not to line the pockets of the politicians, okay? But to have a functioning society. But now we're going to see how things work out with an actual socialist. He's unapologetic about it. He is a socialist. People have elected a socialist in office. I'm not calling him a democratic socialist. He's a socialist, period. And if that's where the Democratic Party is headed, then they need to change the title of their party to a socialist party. It's no longer a Democratic Party, period. And it's interesting because I wonder how many people are going to leave the party or actually join the party, because there are a lot of people out there that support socialism and communism that live here in the United States. But it's interesting because they don't suffer the harms that come along with socialism and communism, right? But they like it. And I also want to point out another thing, that most socialists have money. They are not poor people, okay? They have access to a lot of capital. And Zorhan, he does. He's got access to capital. He comes from a well-to-do family. He's got the six-figure salary that came with, you know, his job as an assemblyman. So he's not hurting, right? He's not a billionaire. We'll just say that. But he's not hurting either. So holding this ideology of you can do everything for free is very disingenuous, because you can't. It costs someone. He's already said he's going to tax the wealthy people. Well, what happens when a lot of those wealthy people move? What happens when a lot of those businesses leave and they don't want to be a part of your project, your social project, your socialism? It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But let's take a look at his, how should I say, what's the speech? I guess I don't want to call it a winner's speech, but just his words, you know, after winning the mayoral race.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants. And as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Yeah. So you heard it, right? It's going to be a city for immigrants, powered by immigrants. Didn't talk about the American way. I mean, the United States flag was so far over to the left. I'm like, okay, who are you representing? He already's, gone against ICE. That's I think how he got a lot of the attention. He was yelling at ICE and saying you need to stop disappearing people and all of these other things. So he definitely supports illegal immigration. He's definitely not someone who believes in law and order. He doesn't care. Lawlessness is okay with him. Because to me, that's really huge when you are advocating for people that are here illegally that broke the law. It sets the stage. It's interesting. And Jonesy says, I bawled my eyes out yesterday morning for NYC. Yeah. Yeah. It's very sad because I don't think people realize the destruction that's going to come behind this. But sometimes people have to go through it to understand it. But the question is, will they remember? Right? Will they actually remember going through hard times? Because, people say, yeah, well, China's a communist country and they seem okay. There are people that are okay with China. But see, you don't live there. Go live there. Be one of the people who gets disappeared for your organs, right? Be one of the people who, you can't celebrate Christianity out in the open. They literally have to be in underground areas to practice Christianity because they have to worship Xi Jinping. That's a thing. They literally have to worship their leader. That's their God. That's where their resources come from. That's who they have to pledge their entire spiritual and physical allegiance to. hmm New York City is not going to be a safe place for a lot of people. And I'm definitely praying for the people of New York. I'm not trying to be, hyperbolic or anything like that. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, people have to make their choices, right? Of who they're going to support, what they're going to do. But in my opinion, this is going to be the downfall of New York City. The pumps were primed uh, during COVID. The pumps were primed, most definitely, um, with how people were moving and acting and, going about things within the city. But now it's been primed for this. It was not, you would have hoped, you would have thought that after everything people had went through during COVID, that the last thing they would have done is put in somebody worse than Eric Adams. Okay. And it's interesting because I want to say he's worse, but at least he was honest about it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's unapologetic. Yeah, I'm gonna charge the rich. So let's just see how many people leave New York. That's all I'm saying. I want to see how many rich people leave New York, like actually leave, go somewhere else, and the tax revenue that he's not going to have access to. So here are some other races that were won yesterday. And Vox, they actually did a article on why Democrats won. Because it is very interesting because Trump won overwhelmingly, but Democrats are winning the local election. So that makes you think like, okay, how did he win? And no, and there's like These bigger cities, right, that were complaining about things going on, they in New York, they put a socialist in office, and in other areas, they put in Democrats. These are the same people that are okay with men being in women's bathrooms. These are the same people that are okay with children get their genitalia cut off. They are. That's who they are. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody down. That's their position, right? And it says why Democrats won the 2025 elections. Democrats romped in both high profile and low profile elections Tuesday in what clearly seemed like a national trend. Okay, I don't want to become a member. No, no, no. There's a paywall. Oh, yeah, that's my paywall. That's my paywall cry. I'm not doing it. Anyways, here's Mr. Zorhan. And I mean he's clean. He looks like a really nice person, but doesn't the face of evil always look welcoming? I'm just saying. Let's just let's just keep it 100. So he's 34 years old. He's a progressive. He's not progressive. He's a communist. Um, he's a socialist, but he would love for everything to be just level for everybody, right? He beat out Cuomo, and he beat out Swella, Swella. He wasn't gonna make it because uh, Curtis wasn't gonna make it because there were people that were like, nah. And Cuomo wasn't gonna make it because, bro, you stepped down from the governorship like you had problems. Really? And Jonesy says, he looks evil and snaky to me. He is. Sneaky, yeah. He's very sneaky. And what's gonna happen is and if you said snaky, yeah, people are gonna get bit by the snake and then be crying for assistance. It's gonna be interesting. And now it's a boost for the Democratic Party because, see, there are people in the Democratic Party that have welcomed him. So that lets you know this, and the leadership as well. Like Schumer didn't, but AOC did, right? Let's not forget Al Sharpton endorsed him. Spike Lee endorsed this person, trying to bring in, you know, Black Americans. And I just want to say, first and foremost, I'm not the leader of the Black community. I'm not. But as a Black American, I don't support any of this nonsense. Okay. So please don't attach Black Americans to Al Sharpton nor Spike Lee. There are a lot of us that are just like, absolutely not. We do not support socialism. Okay. Never. that's not going to be a thing. So, given NYC's size and political weight, Mondani's win sends a strong signal about urban voter mood, the appeal of progressive platforms, and how younger and diverse constituencies are mobilizing. It also becomes a reference point for 2026. Well, the reason why younger people believe that is because they've been brainwashed and trained to hate this country, but demand to take care of them. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Um, Entitlement is a thing, and they've demanded entitlement. Then they don't learn about civics. So they do not understand the concept of what's Republican, what's Democrat, what's socialist, what's communist. They have to research that for themselves. But they are trained to be socialist and communist in school. They are trained to hate the country that they live in, while other people from other countries are begging to get in, and they've been let in, but they're coming in with their value system. They fled socialist communist countries to be here, to quote unquote be free, but they're bringing themselves with them, not forced to assimilate and respect the laws of this country. I'm telling you, they've created a mess. They've created a mess. They truly do want the destruction of the United States. We are the last bastion of freedom around the world, and the world is watching. How could you do this? How could you let your country be penetrated like this? Right? That's definitely a bigger conversation. So Abigail Spanberger, she won the governor's race. in Virginia. This woman is okay with men being in women's bathrooms. She didn't answer the question. She did not answer the question. Are you okay with men being in little girls' bathrooms? She danced around it, didn't answer it. So that means you support it. If you support the LGBTQ community, you support this. So does Zorhan. Okay. So they're okay with depopulation because that's what that leads to. Okay. They're okay with pedophilia because they're okay with men in women's bathrooms. Yeah, people want to try to separate it and say, "Well, that's a moral issue." Well, you put it on the table. You don't get to say, "Well, they're less than 1% of the population," and then prop them up and use them, right? When it's convenient, but then expect us to all capitulate to them and make us, you know, conform to degeneracy because that's what it is. And I'm going to call it what it is. And you might not like it, but that's okay. It is degeneracy. If that is how you choose to live your life, live your life. But if you come over here asking me to accept it and say, I demand that you accept men in women's bathroom. I demand that you accept, children mutilating themselves. Then I'm going to be like, no, I'm not going to accept your degeneracy. Live your life, but do not ask me to accept that. Stop writing laws. Stop using my tax dollars. Stop it. But this is all going to catch up to people. It truly is. Mickey Sherrill, she's another Democrat. Her campaign tapped into economic anxiety and signaled that even in states where Republicans were making gains in recent years, Democrats can hold onto executive offices. And this is in New Jersey. Right. And this is why it matters. New Jersey has been a battleground of sorts and holding the governorship strength, the Democratic infrastructure heading into the midterms. It also shows the local campaigns tailored to economic realities rather than just culture wars are resonating. So people voting in these Democrats, you know, I can't feel sorry for you. I can't. I cannot feel sorry for you voting in people that hate you. Now, Proposition 50, this was pretty big. And in my opinion, I don't want to say it went under the radar, but because we don't live in California, we don't talk about it, but it does carry a lot of weight because this proposition actually passed. This is the whole redistricting thing. Okay. So this is, let me see how, okay, this is just a map, right? This is how California looks now. This is how it's going to look after 50. So even though these carve outs were one Republican and then the shaded areas are more like independent, they're just going to redraw the maps so that they're predominantly Democrat. Yeah. Sad. Sad. It allows the state to temporarily, that's not going to be temporary, but okay. This is conditioning. Temporarily redraw U.S. House districts in what many see as a move to gain seats for Democrats. Yeah, because if they go to that, California's done. California is done. Now, I don't know if they're going to try to go through. There was a proposal where they wanted to basically separate the state and give the coastal land to the progressives and Democrats and liberals and but then keep the eastern part of the state to people that were Republican and more so independent. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen. So redistricting is a powerful tool for shaping congressional control. California taking this step sets stage for potential shifts in the House of Representatives ahead of the 2026 midterms. Yeah. So, I mean, if Newsom runs for president, he's definitely, with it being drawn like this, he's definitely more than likely gonna win California. I'm just saying. It's crazy. So the broader takeaways, the election cycle was a off year, right? No presidential race, but still had high stakes governor, mayor, state legislation, legislative, and ballot measure contests. Democrats generally gained traction in these key contests, which many analysts interpret as a rejection of the current Republican leadership, Donald Trump's influence, and a favorable signal for the party headed into 26. Voter concerns around cost of living, inflation, housing, and economic stability were repeatedly cited as top issues in exit polling. What's interesting is all the Democratic issues are what got you here, but you keep voting in Democrats. I'm sorry. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You keep putting in the people that harm you, like things are going to change, and they never do. They just keep getting worse. It is telling you, it's mind blowing. It is truly, truly mind blowing. So while these results are encouraging for Democrats in certain contexts, many experts caution that off-year races often reflect localized dynamics and may not fully predict national trends. Well, these are going to definitely set the tone, I should say, for national trends going forward. Because if you think there's not going to be a circuit of, news interviews for Mandani, think again. He's going to be everywhere. Because, see, he doesn't necessarily plop into the seat until January, till he's sworn in, whenever that swearing in is. But it's not until January. So for the next 2 months, November and December of this year, he's going to be everywhere. He's going to be on every news broadcast. He's going to be on everybody's lips. Trust me. And they are going to run with this narrative that this is a better way. No, it's not. No one wants socialism. Sorry. And Uncle Coolwater says, shows the power of the Mexican community in California. That's what happens when you got the majority of the voters. You can get and do whatever you want. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can. You can do whatever you want. Because a lot of those people, even if they don't necessarily vote, right? They've collectively been given power to shift the state. And like I said, it was shifting when I was 7 years old. Okay, I'm 53 now. So 46 years? Yeah. Yeah. They've been able to turn California upside down. But, businesses aren't running to California to set up shop. They're leaving. People are leaving California in droves. They're not gaining people, they're losing people. New York is losing people. The state, not just the city. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. And so I asked, I said, with the results in New York, do you think the socialist agenda Mandani has planned will hurt the city? Also, can you explain how city budgets are funded and how they receive funds from the federal government and state? Because I really just wanted to show the breakout. So here's his agenda, right? And I just want to know, would it hurt NYC? So he's got this is what he campaigned on: rent freezes, expanded tenant protections, fair, free, and reduced fare public transit. Okay, they've been throwing billions of dollars at New York Transit, and it's dangerous down there. It's interesting down there because they put the homeless people down there. Like, it's nasty. It's nasty. Okay, and I've visited New York just a couple of times, handful of times, and I'm like, it just keeps getting worse. And you have billions of dollars. What is wrong with this situation? It should look like the bullet train in Japan. The amount of money that's been thrown at this situation, and it never gets any better. It just keeps getting worse. But now it's going to be fare free. Okay, we'll see when that kicks in and what it looks like when that happens. expanding social housing. So he explained how social housing works is that the city would buy buildings and then people could, pretty much move in and live there. And it would be, I don't want to say like a co op, but something like that. Right. Yeah. So how do you think that's going to turn out? Safety wise, right? Are criminals going to be running around in these buildings? Are cartels going to take over some of these buildings, muscling the people that, because see, this is what it turns into. It turns into mob mentality. Just saying. Increased taxes on high earners and large corporations. If you think, and once I show you like how much people are paying in taxes, you'll think, what? Yeah. And it's going to go up. Okay. Relocation of NYPD funding toward housing and mental health services. So you're going to lower the police department funding so you can put it towards housing and mental health services. But who's going to show up when things fall apart in those areas, right? Who's going to be qualified to help out in those areas? Telling you, I'm going to make sure to stay away from New York City. I'm not coming to visit. I've got a candidate that's going to be running for governor, Derek Gibson. And I know some of y'all chuckle when I talk about Derek Gibson, but look, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I'm at right now. Seriously. Bueller, he's running as a Redemption Party candidate. He's not running as a Republican. So you guys check him out, get out there, support him. I know some people he has rubbed the wrong way. I get it. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but the one thing that he does love is his country. The one thing he does love is New York, and he wants to ensure and make sure that the state of New York, that people are safe, that they are taken care of, and that it does not turn into a socialist debacle, right? Because here's the thing, once these messes are created, it takes a long time to clean them up. And it seems like things aren't going right immediately because there's so much to clean up. Yeah. So, Cajun lady says, you're correct. Democracy equals mob rule. It does. And it's going to be so sad to see how some of this turns out for people. I just feel bad for them, you know. So the policy benefits. There's a benefit? What? So the possible upside to the housing and rent stabilization could slow displacement, reduce homelessness, and stabilize neighborhoods. Okay, it could, but again, it could turn into a mob situation because you already have people that are in a delicate situation, right? And so it's easy for people to come in and literally be like these gangs, right? That could take over certain areas and territories and have them under their rule. It doesn't work. Like socialism doesn't work. I'm just saying. It does. It's very crazy. And it says, we have a Declaration of Independence that must be enforced. Now, absolutely. And the problem is we keep letting all these people in from socialist countries be in our government. How do you think we got here? Some people can't come. Some people can't run for office. I'm telling you, that is my plead with every state and municipality. You need to change the rules that state if your family, if you cannot trace your family back to the 1700s, document it, you can't run for office anywhere in this country, period. You cannot run if you can't trace your people back to the 1700s, period. And we have enough people here, right, that can run for office, that can replace these people that are in office. We do have the numbers. But allowing people from communist and socialist countries to come over here and be a part of our government has been to our detriment. It has not been to our benefit at all. Not at all. Um, Cheaper or free transit boost ridership, help low income workers, reduces congestion. It actually makes congestion worse, in my opinion, right? It may help people that are low income. It's not going to boost ridership because you're taking money from the police department. So who's supposed to be down there protecting these people that are going to be riding for free? And if when you make things free like this, you know who takes advantage of it? Gangs. It all goes back to the to gangs who are going to literally be holding people hostage. There's just going to be a lot of wild things going on. Yeah, nothing's free. Social housing services, long term reductions in emergency shelter costs, and crime linked to poverty. That's going to get worse. That's not an upside. See, this is where me and ChatGPT we differ because I live in the real world and this is hypothetical. You can say it's an upside, but it's not a real upside because humans are by default fallen. Okay, we're all sinful. For a lot of people, their first train of thought isn't to be good to the next person. It's what can I get from that person and how can I take them over and how can I have them submit to me? Okay, that's and a lot of people that live in New York City, that's their mentality because they were not from this country and you brought them here. And now they're going to basically have free reign to just be terrorists here in our country, on our soil. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting 4 years. It really is. Tax reforms targeted at high earners. So NYC already has a concentrated wealthy base. In theory, revenue could rise if structured carefully. Now, here's the thing: potential risk. High income flight. If tax increases are aggressive, wealthy individuals and corporations could move to New Jersey, Connecticut, or Florida where taxes are lower. Even a small migration impacts revenue highly because top 1% of earners pay 45% of New York tax income. So you got 45% from your top one. What happens when they move? Just like half of them. So then you have 0.5% that are going to stay. And you have to increase their taxes because the tax revenue that they're given right now isn't doing enough. Where's the money going? That's my question. Because you're given billions of dollars every year. And we haven't even gotten into this person's budget yet, but you're given billions of dollars every year. You can't balance your budget. And your city is out of control. Like, really? Yeah. Business investment slowdown. If corporate regulations or payroll taxes increase, companies may reduce hiring or relocate. NYC has already lost financial headquarters in recent years. Yep, they did. I think they lost like an Amazon account because of something that AOC did. And they're like, "Nope, we are not going to New York. Bye." And lost thousands of jobs. Mhm. Service expansion without new revenue. So free transit, rent freezes, cost, but stable funding must come from somewhere. Taxes, state aid, or cuts to something else. Yeah. So they're gonna more than likely raise taxes. They might not get any more state aid. And what are they gonna cut when they're trying to give everybody something for free? It's silly and it doesn't work. Police funding shifts could cause union and political backlash, a potential friction with state federal agencies. Yeah, they're always talking about we have to go after the police. Well, here's the deal: the crime can be curtailed if you're going to actually educate people, number one, right, that are your citizens, and you stop bringing in criminals. Right. And the criminals are the people who cross the border here illegally. They're criminals, period. I don't want to hear it. Oh, they're nice people. No, they're not. They're criminals and they need to be deported immediately. They shouldn't be living off the system. They should not be here. They are leading to the downfall of this country, especially in New York City. And it's harmful, period. We got to get them up out of here, period. So the bottom line, whether the agenda hurts or helps depends on execution and balance. So I get it. So If reforms are rapid and tax heavy, right, without maintaining competitiveness, NYC risk repeating the 1970s style fiscal strain. Yeah, they've been through this before. And it didn't work out well when they tried it this way. If reforms are gradual, right, revenue neutral, and paired with friendly business conditions, NYC could stabilize housing affordability. But they're not going to do that. They're literally going to, he's already said, he's like, I'm going to tax the rich. That's what I'm going to do. So we're going to see what happens with the exodus. So Mamdani's success will depend on how he negotiates with city council, the governor, state legislature, the business sector, and public sector unions. So no NYC mayor governs alone. I get it. Now here's his budget. The budget is 110 to 120 billion annual budget. Now I didn't ask if the where the budget stands right now, if they're in a default or if they have excess. But $120 billion, most states don't even have a budget that big. And this is just for a city, not a county, just the city. Okay? That's it. That's crazy. But he's got the budget of a state in a city. So city taxes account for 65% of their revenue, right? Property tax, personal income tax for residents, sales tax, and business taxes, right? Now, Trump was trying to help out, like tax on tips and different things like that. So I don't know how that's going to play into helping a lot of these young people who have like server positions, because that's a big thing in New York, their hospitality industry and the restaurateur industry. And a Cajun lady says, Doctor, have you looked into the 1917 revolution? I have not. I will have to look that up. It doesn't sound good. It sounds, look, just looking at revolution, it sounds like the people were tired of being under rule, and you know, they kind of mobbed the city infrastructure. That's what that sounds like when you talk about a revolution and changing things. But I'll definitely look into that. Cajun lady, thanks for bringing that up. So state aid is 20%, mostly for public schools, healthcare, and transit. Federal aid is 10 to 12%, and that includes Medicaid, housing subsidies, SNAP, funding, disaster aid, and grants. And then 3 to 5% are usually like fines, fees, permits, parking tickets, etc. Like the lower taxes that people pay. So the single biggest revenue source is property tax, but NYC does not tax property the same way as most places. Commercial buildings and rental buildings pay much higher tax rates than 1 to 3 family owner occupied homes. That's interesting because usually it's the opposite in places where multi-family dwellings will pay a discounted tax, where other houses, single family homes, will pay a higher tax rate. So this has big implications for affordability and business development. Okay. So how federal and state funds flow to the city, right? The federal funds primarily go to Medicaid, public hospitals, housing vouchers, public transit grants, SNAP with benefits, emergency management, and disaster funding. So that's the federal level. Now, NYC cannot dictate federal funding formulas. They are tied to, right? Like population, poverty levels, programming, eligibility. So state and government, Albany controls the school funding, MTA operating and capital funding, some housing, rent stabilization laws, NYPD jurisdiction in areas like counterterrorism. So a socialist-leaning mayor must negotiate carefully with Albany because the governor and state legislature can block or override many city policies. Yeah, so his power rolls up to somewhere. He just can't do whatever, right? But see, the governor has already endorsed him. She's on board with this. She's on board with it. Hands raised. Yay, he's gonna do great. Okay, so she's on board with socialism. So that will let you know what she wants to do. It's going to be interesting. Just saying. So, strategic insight moving forward to avoid financial instability. Mamdani will need to uh, phase policy slowly, not all at once, win support from businesses, coalitions, not antagonize them, work with unions, especially transit, sanitation, and the police, avoid over reliance on taxing a small, wealthy base, right? But he's already admitted that's what his motivation is, right? Tax the rich. Leverage federal and state housing, right? Transit grants for funding instead of local tax hikes. Then I asked, can the federal government adjust SNAP funding to New York City based on immigration requirements in the big, beautiful bill? And the short answer is no, right? The federal government cannot directly adjust or reduce SNAP funding to New York City simply because of immigration numbers, even under the new H.R. 1 proposals, but they can change eligibility rules, right? Which would indirectly change how many people in NYC qualify, and that would affect how much SNAP money flows into the city. And I think that's the biggest thing that we haven't really been looking at because, yes, the numbers have increased. And I did look at um, the breakdown, right, of the numbers. And pretty much, let me see if I got the numbers here. I don't know if I looked them up. I did it in one of my other searches. But pretty much, we've got like, 42 million people on SNAP. And about, here we go, participation breakdown. About, well, a little under 4 million people are, I guess, listed as foreign born, if that makes sense. Foreign born are non citizens, right? So this is like 41.7 million people are on it, and about 39.9 million of are U.S. citizens. This includes both U.S. born and naturalized citizens. So again, people that are naturalized here aren't supposed to get those benefits, right? And we already know that non-citizens are supposed to be getting it. So they're claiming 1.8 million, and this includes refugees and other eligible non-citizen categories. I'm sorry, the number, in my opinion, just doesn't fare out, but that's what ChatGPT's spin back because I'm like, okay, what are these numbers? Where they got the numbers from the USDA ERS reports, 41.7 million on average. And here's the breakdown for the most recent detailed year of 2023. It shows 89.4% US born, 6.2% are naturalized, and 1.1% are refugees, 3.3 are other non-citizens, right? And adding, it says adding born and naturalized gives like 95.6% citizens. Of the 41.7 million, 39.9 million citizens. The remaining 4.4 are refugees. Yeah. And so what I wanted to see in my concern was like, you know what? There are people that are eligible. And in my opinion, the only people that should ever be eligible for this are U.S. citizens. Anybody below this line, you're not eligible. That's what needs to change. The whole lawfully present green card, no. Refugee asylee, no. And they say most undocumented is already no, that's fine. And then these people born here on the soil that they're claiming they're U.S. citizens, no, because here's the deal: they can be a U.S. born citizen, which they're clearly not. Right? Okay. In a household with undocumented parents, how are you a citizen? And the people that are here, they're here illegally. How are you even a citizen if they're here illegally? They broke the law, and you're a citizen. Like, none of that makes sense. And the states cannot, just because they want to issue somebody a birth certificate, issue to them, but it's been happening for decades and nobody's been checked on it. Nobody's been stopped. Nobody's gone to jail. Nothing. There's been no accountability for that. How does someone become a born U.S. citizen just because they were born on the soil and your parents aren't naturalized? Help me. But they've done it. This is why Donald Trump has put this out there. How are you using the 14th Amendment when it was clearly written for somebody else? But you're using it because you're using the words, you're not using the principle of the law. Without the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, we're nowhere. And it was put in place because of the Emancipation Proclamation. Law is what it is. How it got there is what it is. It's historically documented. You can't get away from that. You just can't. And Cajun lady says the math ain't mathing. It isn't mathing. It isn't mathing. Not at all. But I don't know if you guys disagree with me, right? But can we agree that everybody below this line should never be eligible for benefits in this country? Period. And if they weren't eligible, guess where they wouldn't be? Here. They wouldn't be here. And a lot of people say, oh, yeah, they would be. But guess what they would have to do? They'd have to do it the right way. But they still wouldn't be eligible for benefits because they changed that in 1996. There was a law made that said if you are here in this country, you are not eligible for benefits. Now, their workaround was, okay, after 5 years of you being here and you haven't been in trouble and this, that, and the other, but still, that law was written to keep people from being dependent or being on our welfare system, period. And it has just run amok in the past 5 years. I mean, it's been worse than I've ever seen it. It's always been bad, but these past 4 years have been horrific. And we wonder why we're where we are right now. Again, that's why I keep saying, are they trying to destroy this country on purpose? Putting all these people on these benefits, getting them dependent on welfare, and then taking it away, right? What are these people? What do you think they're going to do? And they've not been assimilated properly, and they think they, carte blanche, okay, are extremely entitled to whatever they want because that's what's been done over the past couple of years for them. They get whatever they want whenever they want it, and everybody fights for them. What? And you've broken the law, and people are fighting for you? Like, it's weird. It is very strange. And Cajun lady says the goal is to destroy us from within. Absolutely. Absolutely, they want to destroy us from within. Because that's the only way they win. Right? And when I'm talking about the they, I am referring to individuals from the Rockefeller Foundation. I'm referring to the WEF with Klaus Schwab. I'm referring to the IMF. I am referring to the United Nations. I am referring to individuals that are globalists. I am referring to individuals that support the Office of New America. Of New Americas. Oh, sorry. So when I say the they, that is who I'm referring to. These are individuals that want the benefits that the United States can give them, but at the same time, they want to destroy the very country they're benefiting from. It is very sick. It is very disgusting because all they want is power and control. And we are the last country that they cannot seem to get their hands around our throats. They're trying really hard. But see, they forget that there are actual citizens here that will fight to keep this country free. They are out there telling you. I've come across a few of them, especially some of them in Michigan, the militia. Yes, they do not like anybody else that doesn't look like them. But you know what? They will fight tooth and nail, shoulder to shoulder if you want to save this country. They may not like you. but they will fight with you to protect this soil. That's just who they are, period. And Minnesota Fats, thank you so much for reposting the stream. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into, some healthy news that I'd like to share with you guys. But thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Good morning and welcome back to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. So we were going over, just the election results from yesterday and socialism and just, changes that we definitely need to make in this country. And so I wanted to check out all sides. And of course, they have a article about a mayor that was elected in New York City. Zoran Mandami was elected to mayor of New York in Tuesday's election, beating President Donald Trump's endorsement candidate Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I'm probably butchering it. But Mamdani will be the first Muslim mayor of New York City. And this is always interesting to me because people use Muslim almost like it's an ethnic moniker, and it's not. It is, by all accounts, just saying, it is a moniker of religion. Okay. So it'd be like saying he's the first Christian mayor of New York. You know what I mean? It would kind of be silly to call somebody a Christian mayor. It's like, why does their religion have anything to do with it? Right? Why is their religion so important? Well, when you talk about Islam, right, the reason why it's important is because there's different sects, SECTS, and a sect is an organization, right, within a religion or different religions organization. So you can have a sect in Christianity that could be Baptist or Protestant, so on and so forth, right? Just saying. Or like, let's just say if he was Jehovah's Witness, would it matter to anybody? Should it matter what his religious preference is? Because Muslim is not an ethnicity. Okay. It is a religious moniker. That's it. It's what you are. It's what you practice. I wonder if they're going to be like, is it Minnesota that they do the prayer call all times of the day? I wonder if they're going to have those horns out and people just stopping wherever they are, even if they're crossing the street, to stop and pray. I wonder how this is really going to affect New York, because y'all ain't got down to that. But see, bringing this up is crazy because there are Muslims that do follow Sharia law. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Let me know if you want me to review it here on one of our shows. It is a very it's opposite to the Constitution, and it is a set of laws under their religious practice that run contrary to the Constitution of the United States. So I'm just saying, when are we going to get there that unfortunately there are some people that practice Islam with Sharia law, right? And there's some people that practice Islam without it. But for those that subscribe to Sharia law, in my opinion, them and anybody else related to them need to be removed from the soil. You need to be in all the stands, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq. I don't care. But you can't be here because you don't follow our laws. You don't subscribe to our laws. You don't care about the United States. If that's what you're practicing, you got to go. Get off the soil. That's where I'm at with it. So he's a Muslim mayor of New York, as well as the first mayor of South Asian descent. Yeah, he was born in Uganda and something else. Yeah. So he's got all of these. It's like, oh, yeah, this is so great. No, none of it's great. Okay, this is why I'm saying there needs to be a new rule put in place. Anybody from dog catcher to president, if your family does not go back to the 1700s, you cannot run for political office anywhere here in this country. Seats will remain vacant if they have to be, but you cannot be in the seat, period. So he will also be the youngest mayor in over a century, according to NPR. Mamdani ran on a platform of eliminating bus fares, freezing stabilized rents, and raising taxes on the wealthy and large corporations. Trump has threatened to withhold federal funds from New York City. I've read through that. He can't do that if Mamdani were to become mayor, and has labeled him as his little communist. Over 2 million voters came to the polls, resulting in the highest voter turnout for a mayoral election in over 50 years. That's interesting because one person admitted to him voting for him 6 times. How many of these people were actual citizens of the country? And I wonder if those votes are going to be audited. They should be. I want a whole audit. And it's interesting because, like California, New York has a law where you don't have to show driver's license. You don't even have to prove that you're a resident of the state. I could have went to New York City and voted for this person. I'm just saying. Like, that's how crazy it is. That is how crazy it is. So in his acceptance speech, Mamdani said New York will remain a city of immigrants. This I don't like. I don't like. I don't want any city in this country to be a city of immigrants. No. There are people that migrate here because they wanted to be here. Got it. Generationally, they have built wealth. They've done it. No. We're Americans, not immigrants. But he's letting you know whose side he's on because he's not on the side of Americans at all. A city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. Disgusting. That's just gross to me. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get any of us, you will have to get through all of us. That's okay. They're beefing up ICE. Just saying. So this is how the media covered it. Fox News on the right reported Mamdani victory with the headline Socialist Shockwave. Zohran Mamdani stuns NYC as voters hand power to Democrats' far left flank. New York City, Newsweek, that sender, highlighted Mamdani's address to Trump in his victory speech, writing that Mamdani had 4 words for President Trump. NPR called Mamdani's win a historic victory for progressives, writing that Mamdani is one of the country's most popular and polarizing politicians. Yeah, because see, Malcolm X warned us about the progressives, and they're worse than conservatives. Because see, they pretend to be on your side. They pretend to be your friend while All along, they know they're going to stab you in the back eventually and take everything you have and rob you blind. And they don't care. That's the worst thing about a progressive. At least conservatives are honest about it up front. They just are. And this is another one I wanted to go over. Trump says SNAP benefits won't resume until the government shutdown ends. What? Do we know when it's ending? Do we have an end date for this? Or are they going to keep playing chicken with the American people? They're going to keep, all of us wondering what's going to happen to our lives. It's crazy. So, President Donald Trump stated that the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program SNAP benefits will not be distributed until the ongoing government shutdown ends. In a post on Truth Social, Trump stated that SNAP benefits will only be given when Democrats agree to end the government shutdown. This statement followed Trump administration lawyers informing a federal court in Rhode Island that a contingency fund would be used to issue partial food stamp payments for November. More than 42 million Americans rely on SNAP to buy food each month. However, the Department of Agriculture announced last month that the food aid would not be distributed to recipients on November 1st due to the government shutdown. And here's the only reason it's partial. It's partial because, again, I explained to you guys, explain these guys, $9 billion is what it costs for the month. They don't have $9 billion. And because of the Anti-Deficiency Act, which nobody keeps bringing up in all of these wonderful articles that I'm reading to you, except for me, and I just feel like I'm just like, what? It states that you cannot issue more than you have on hand. So they can't say, hey, we'll fund it for the month, because it would be illegal and they would go to jail, period. That's just how the law works, right? So the ongoing government shutdown has led to a halt in distribution of SNAP benefits, while media outlets have continued to place blame for the shutdown on congressional lawmakers. This is the first time the program has faced a funding freeze since its inception. Recent court funding have ordered the Trump administration to unfreeze the funding, using $5 billion in emergency contingency funding set aside for Congress. But it still would only fund for 2 weeks. Like, y'all are silly. And so this is how the media covered it. CBS, that leans left, emphasized the administration's decision to tap into a contingency fund to issue partial food stamp payments, questioning what Trump's post means for the contingency funds. Meanwhile, the Washington Times, which leans right, focused on Trump's criticism of the Democrats, accusing them of expanding the SNAP program beyond its intended purpose. The article highlighted Trump's statements over SNAP benefits increasing by billions and billions of dollars, many-fold, during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office. News Nation Center highlighted Trump's defiance of the court order to fund SNAP and the implication of the ongoing government shutdown. And see, now we know we live in a world of propaganda when no one at a news article can. I went to ChatGPT and I said, hey, can this be done? Can that be done? And ChatGPT was like, well, actually, you can't. Because there's this Anti-Deficiency Act that says you can't just unilaterally, USDA, decide we're going to just fund SNAP benefits, even though we don't have it. They can't do it. And they need congressional approval even for the funds that they do have. Nobody's talking about that part. But they're putting all this propaganda out there, and they're making all of these incendiary comments and articles, and they're fueling all of this anger in people, instead of telling people, hey, we're going to use people power, because obviously the government does not care. And anybody that can, flood your food banks, make sure that the food banks stay filled with food. People that do need food, that are SNAP recipients, hey, we're going to make sure you're taken care of, right? And there's actually a business model that could be followed. And let me see. We're going to get into peace pads in a minute. I wanted to show you guys something, because I found this interesting, because I asked ChatGPT, me and ChatGPT, we have these long conversations, and I wanted to know, like, would it be possible for people to, turn things around in this down economy, right? It's like, what can we do to turn this around? I think I put it under here because it had a very interesting feedback, and I was like, okay, I could see some of this. And I said, okay, we looked at lowering the cost. And there's a mass deportation. Thanks for bearing with me, everybody. Yeah, I do a lot of different searches with ChatGPT because I'm like, okay, research this. Just aggregate this information for me. Weight amount SNAP can be lowered. Yeah, this is what I was asking. I was like, can it be lowered? And it said it could. And then I asked, can mass deportation be denied? Eligibility to anyone who's not in the United States. So we kind of talked about that. Unsustainable. Is there a way to lower costs? Yes, SNAP is growing cost. There's some of the ways we can reduce the cost. And it's interesting because it ties a lot back into housing, because when people are putting more of their money to provide a roof, they have less money for food. It is what it is. So just program rules, right? And that was just to get people more independent in what we're looking at. Let me see if I do this right. That's what it was. Okay, this is the right one. I do all this research myself, you guys. So sometimes, it's like my brain is like all over the place in different areas. So I see an opportunity for business startups to create microeconomies, right? What are your thoughts? And do you have any suggestions to achieve this? Okay, so and the opportunity behind the shutdown, right? This is where we are right now. So when federal systems slow or stall, local resilience gaps appear. Food, childcare, elder care, health access, and even basic financial services can be disrupted, right? People still need essential goods and services, but can't rely on government programs or large institutions to deliver. So small, agile community businesses can fill those gaps quickly, earning both trust and income while strengthening local control. And one that I looked at, so principles building microeconomies, local supply, group ownership, shared profit, local circulation of money, digital infrastructure, right? Using AI tools, social capital and financial capital. And what I looked at here, and this one really stood out to me. So microeconomy startup models for right now. So micro farms and vertical gardens, supplying local produce. Partner with small grocers or meal prep startups. Subscription or barter models for families losing SNAP support. Example, a neighborhood Nourish Co-op $25 weekly subscription meal boxes at a local pickup. So what if some of these, if we had, like large donors in your state could take, people that are receiving SNAP. And let's say they go, okay, we want to just support the people that receive SNAP that just can't do anything, right? They're bedridden, they're elderly, they're handicapable, like what have you, right? And we say, okay, can you donate to these people at least $25 a week in meal boxes, right? So that we can keep them going. And those meal boxes can actually be based on produce from local grocers, right? That just have an overflow of foods that they haven't sold, that the food hasn't gone bad, but they haven't sold this produce, where then somebody goes, okay, I'll be the pickup from the Kroger's. Let's just use Kroger, for example. I'll pick up from Kroger. I'll deliver it to this area. And these people, they'll basically be pickers and they'll put the boxes together. And then we'll take this box to this person's house. Or we will set it up where people can come through the line and pick it up. Now, you were like, well, that's like a food bank. It is. It is like a food bank. But instead of it being state funded or ran, it would actually be independently funded and ran, right? Just like a lot of these meal boxes that you see online where people will, have a subscription of $100 or $150 a month. So their meals are delivered. This would be a weekly subscription. So again, $100 a month. But somebody could run this as an actual business, right? Care services for child care, elder care, home maintenance groups, right? Community runs. Other flexible membership pricing and bartered services can be funded via small local grants, mutual aid funds, or member shares. Example, Moms United Care Collective, shared child care exchange among working parents. Let's say you've got parents that work during the daytime, but then there's parents that work at night. The parents that work at night will be like, hey, can you watch my child during the nighttime? And then, during the daytime before I go back to work, I can pick your kid up from school and be there because you'll be at work, and sharing that responsibility. So there's ways out of this. We do not have to be subject and dependent and controlled by our government. Because see, that's where we are right now. As much as we want to be and say we're mighty and we're independent as a country, we are, but we aren't. There are still dependencies that have grown, and they've grown in such a way that we are now controlled. And we have to get out of that control system. We really do. So community tech and AI services, local digital hubs offering AI literacy, small business automation, and e-commerce startups for residents, right? Fund through membership or local sponsored ads. Example, a neighborhood AI lab trains local to use AI for marketing, resumes, and business automation. Micro manufacturing, right? And makes maker spaces use 3D printing, woodworking, or sewing collectives to make everyday products or replacement parts. Focus on sustainable goods that can replace imported or corporate dominated products. Example, Rebuild Hub, a neighborhood production for furniture repair, tech refurbishing, and packaging. Say somebody's got an older dining table, but one of the chair legs has been given out. Somebody who knows woodworking could go over there and fix that person's chair, and it might cost, $20-$30. But now we're locally exchanging. We're building up the economy right at the local level, and those dollars can circulate and continue to support the people in the area. And it's really thinking outside the box and going in that way. Community banking and exchange, launch local investment circles, right? Rotating savings clubs, a crypto backed local currency. Members contribute a small amount of money. Funds are used to invest in other local ventures. For example, Freedom Fund Circle, $50 a month pooled micro investments into local startups, right? So everybody's pitching in $50 a month, and it's like, okay, you're going to start a restaurant, you're going to start a cleaners, you're going to start a childcare service, right? But that's how you do it, all at the local level. Media and information networks, right? Local news and content networks to inform residents about service, jobs, and opportunity. These become trust nodes for community coordination. For example, Unfiltered Vision micro news pods. It can be a micro news pod, you guys. Decentralized community journalism using local hosts. So, maybe I could, and I do try when it's relevant to say things about Stockbridge or Henry County or McDonough, where I live, and put that out on the airwaves. and, encourage people to vote or encourage people to come down to check out our city when there's different events going on. That could help. Or even reporting on local news, right? And we do have something, there's the neighborhood app. I don't know if a lot of people use it, but that is another way to create that trust node of information sharing on a network that's local, right? So strategy to scale sustainably, identify the gaps, MVP launch, right? Local partnerships, and then microfinance plus digital reach. So in a year, you can really turn things around. And I think that's the part that, discourages some people because they want to just that instance, you know, let's go, but it's got to be on tomorrow. It doesn't happen that way, and it shouldn't, right? Because you really have to work together to make a difference. Because when you're working together and you build a solid foundation, then it will last. But if people are continuously being given fish and they don't learn how to ever fish to feed themselves, they'll starve. And that's what's happened with our government, right? We've gotten to the point where we've been given so much that when it's pulled away, we're like, hey, we don't want to starve. We're going to starve. You need to give us, we demand that you continue to give to us, as opposed to stepping back and saying, okay, you can't give to me. That's fine. I know how to stand on my own 2 feet and fish, and I'll be fine. And that's where we need to be mentally, not any other place. And sincerely, Lawless and Sassy Lady, thank you so much for joining us this morning and reposting the stream. And if I didn't say it earlier, Mark from the Soil, thank you so much for joining us and reposting the stream also. Yeah, we need to be in that mentality that we, the people, because that's what it says on the Constitution, we, the people, are going to be responsible for ourselves. Right? And if the government decides that they are going to, the federal government, right? If they decide they're going to abandon us, okay, then we know who we shouldn't be putting back in office, right? Because to me, this is very telling of what should happen in 2026. And in my opinion, I've told you guys many times before, none of them, not any of them, should be sent back to the hill because they have no respect for the American people. They truly do not respect us. And they want to use everything they can, in my opinion, to destroy this country. They want to see it burn down. They do not care. And we have to care more. Okay, and it says a recommendation for me, build a micro economy playbook. I'm not doing that, but thanks for the suggestion. But I think you guys get the gist. I think you get where I'm coming from. We need to be self-sufficient, not dependent on government. And with that, I want to transition and I want to talk to you guys about something that does affect women everywhere. And what it is, it's sanitary napkins. I kind of gave it away a little bit because I want to talk about peace pads, right? And this is a product that was developed by Riza Islam. And it really came from what he showed. So I wanted to start out with showing you guys some of this research that he shared with us. So it says in 2012, there was no single widely publicized review that comprehensively covered the lack of oversight of sanitary napkins in the U.S. globally. However, 2012 marked a key moment in the broader discussion of menstrual hygiene management, MHM, particularly regarding its importance in global public health and development, which highlighted a general lack of institutional attention and a lack of regulatory harmonization across countries. In essence, they're making this product and there's no oversight. Right. And I wanted to bring this up because obviously it is Women and Wellness Wednesday, and we talk about things to keep us, healthy, right? Physically, spiritually, and mentally. But this is one that's physical. And so the key points regarding the situation around 2012. So, emerging public health topic prior to and during 2012, menstrual hygiene management was largely a neglected topic, particularly in low and middle income countries. The lack of attention meant that issues of product quality, access, and proper disposal were often unaddressed by health or sanitation programs. In 2011, UNICEF decided to support research in 4 countries on MHM in the water, sanitation, and hygiene, right, sector. And in 2012, it co-hosted a virtual conference on MHM and WASH in schools. These efforts aim to shift the responsibility for MHM from individuals to institutions, indicating a recognition that existing systems or lack of were inadequate. So, varying international regulatory frameworks for menstrual products varied significantly by country, and this lack of consistent, rigorous oversight was a prevalent issue. So, in the US, sanitary napkins were and still are classified as Class 1 medical devices regulated by the FDA, which involves certain manufacturing controls but has been criticized for not requiring rigorous testing for toxic chemicals. So they basically were like, "Oh, everything should be okay," and just left it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. They just were like, "Yeah, I'll be fine." Now in Europe, they were classified as consumer products. So it's interesting that this is classified as a medical device in the America, and in Europe, it's a consumer product, right? Which generally meant less stringent legal enforcement compared to medical devices or quasi drugs in other regions. So some countries relied more on voluntary manufacturer controls than legal mandates. Basically, because we had talked about this last week when I talked about that medication that caused cancer, that was a hypertension medication. They basically said, okay, companies disclose if there's something wrong, people need to know so they can have informed consent and kind of have, choice, right? They might choose your product over somebody else's product if your product is proven, that it's going to be safe for them to use. Just using an example. And Ghost, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we're posting the stream. So, lack of research on health impacts. So, studies from that era and subsequent reviews noted a significant lack of non occupational and domestic studies on the potential health effects of chemicals in sanitary pads, which limited the ability of regulatory bodies to enforce specific safety standards. So women have really just been left out, literally just exposed, right? So I looked it up here in ChatGPT and I was like, okay. And it listed some that, people are very familiar with always, Kotex, Maxi pads, these are, and guys, I'm not trying to gross you out by this conversation, but I'm trying to let you guys know as well, because if you have women in your life, if you have children, right? Cousins, sisters, share this information with them so you can make a better informed decision about this particular product. And so, what chemical material concerns have been reported? There is increasing scrutiny of what's in menstrual and sanitary products. Some of the concerns include, hopefully I can pronounce this right, phthalates and volatile organic compounds, right? I mean, was anybody thinking about this growing up? I wasn't, right? And I don't think a lot of women do because we don't talk about this stuff. So several studies have found phthalates used to used to soften plastics or adhesives, and VOCs used for adhesive fragrances, coatings, and napkins. A study of sanitary napkins in 6 countries found that total um, phthalate concentrations of 1,700 to 11,000 ng, with major phthalates being DIBP, DEHP, and DENP, right? In Chinese sanitary napkins, 98% of samples had phthalates. In Indian research, VOCs, dioxins, and furans, total chlorine found in 5 brands. Okay, so some pretty crazy stuff. Endocrine, disruptive, and reproductive health concerns. Okay, so these phthalates and some VOCs are linked to other contexts of endocrine, disruption, fertility issues, early puberty, thyroid issues, etc. Interesting. It's interesting that it says early puberty. So I wonder if it's like it's passed on, you know, from mother to daughter. So, for example, one commentary noted heavy metals, VOCs in pads and tampons, and the inadequate regulatory oversight. So, regulation and transparency gaps. Some countries have little requirement for ingredient disclosure or chemical safety testing of these products. For example, many pads may be exempt from certain labeling or toxicity tests in some markets. The regulatory classification sometimes limits required testing of chemical safety in the US and elsewhere. Other material concerns: skin irritation, allergic contact determinants, um, I'm sorry, dermatitis, dermatitis. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Pads with fragrances, dyes, adhesives may irritate sensitive areas. Improper use, right? Not changing often, leaving moist environment can increase risk of infection. Though this is not a chemical toxicity issue, rather hygiene, but still they work in tandem. So, are they proven harmful? What is the level of risk? So, here's how to interpret the evidence. The presence of potentially harmful chemicals, phthalates, VOCs, is documented in multiple studies. The dose response and direct cause links. This pad caused cancer, or this pad caused infertility in X users, are not firmly established. Many studies are cross-sectional, small sample sizes, sometimes region-specific, or measure only chemical presence rather than measured health outcomes. So here's another area for women that they're really not paying attention to. So, for example, 6 country study concluded that the calculated health risk for phthalates in sanitary napkins were generally low, but the carcinogenic risk in some samples exceeded acceptable levels. Why would anything carcinogenic be in a sanitary napkin? Like it's weird, right? Similar indie studies flagged presence of chemicals and potential health impact concerns, right? Reproductive toxicity and endocrine disruptors, but did not present large, um, long to not longitudinal human outcome data. So that just means they're not studying it. They're not taking a large enough sample size in different regions, right? And saying, okay, this region suffered this, they're just, they don't care. As long as women buy their products, and it's one of those things we're kind of forced to as women. You know what I mean? Like, we're born as women, yay! But this is something that you're gonna have to use for a good 30, 40 years of your life or more, right? Depending on who you are. When you started, when you finish, right? So you're going to have to use this product. You can't not use it. So the market for it is very interesting because it's a have to. It's not an option, right? And they've made a whole business model around it. And they have underwear, right? Now that people can wear. But what are the chemicals in those underwear? Has anybody even asked that question? And so I went to a presentation that our brother Riza Islam had done, right? And I'm going to show you the commercial here in a little bit and we'll go through the website. But that's really what got me interested in learning more about this, right? Practical guidance. Um, okay, I don't need that. But here's some of the products here. And they try to say it's organic and all these other things, but how do you know? And that's the thing. And here's interesting. It says made without added synthetic fragrances, pesticides, and chlorine. So that means do these have synthetic fragrances? Do these have pesticides? Do these have chlorine? Because they're not saying that they don't. I'm just saying. Kind of lets you know what the bar is. It really, really does. And Uncle Coolwater says, I think all women should start a petition and send it to Kennedy and let him know since he's in office, right? To fix health concerns. Exactly. I mean, this should definitely be brought to HHS's attention because this does fall under the FDA because they made it a medical device for here in the United States, not other places, but at least here in the United States. Now, here's something that's brief. Now there's the Kotex Ultra Pads. They're unscented. They're plant-based. They charcoal odor control, no harsh ingredients, positioned as premium. So here's the thing. It's like, again, my mind was blown because I was like, you wouldn't think that they would make anything for women harmful and not say it, but they did it. Always mainstream brand, heavy overnight protection, performance. I'm just trying to see. And some have herbal oil, introduces other exposures. It's cotton. It's this. That was the honey pot one that we saw. They've got washable napkins. So they've got different things, right? That are fragrance free, dye free. But here's my thing: were they ever telling anybody about this? Right? So here is the Peace Paths website. Now I'm gonna show you guys a video. Want to review this topic, and this is from someone on the X platform. Delayed. I'm probably like not even moving right now, even though I hear myself and I see myself. Yeah, I gotta wait. StreamYard's being weird because I'm trying to do something important. Just goodness. Stream here. I am so sorry, you guys. My stream is just being weird right now. Oh, I hate when this happens. I just gotta wait. Okay. No. Stop that. Just give me a second, guys. I'm my goodness. Kick me out. Took everybody's comments out. Just a mess. Okay, so Patty, I will bring you up in just a second. I wanted to play this video in relation to what we were just discussing, and hopefully it will play because yeah, it's getting interesting.
Brand new. Take it down so I can see it. Turn it around, okay? Look, you don't see anything on it. It's brand new, obviously. I just took the back off. Now put it back up to the fucking light. That is mold. Oh,
that's crazy.
My God.
When we first had it up here, it was just green. I'm like, all right, ain't really shit. But I still don't like that color. And then we flipped it, and then we was like, oh shit. Yeah, nah, bro. That's disgusting.
Yeah. So for anybody that was out there listening, they found mold in the pads. Now, since watching this video, you know how on X they'll have, how should I say it, like a little community note that says, oh, well, that's just the gel and the pads. That's not necessarily mold. But then after, doing some research on that Peace Pads had done, and as you can saw, just a little research, that unfortunately these products, are not necessarily as safe as we think they are. So, and with that, I'm going to bring, this will work out well because my internet is really acting crazy. Oh, she's gone. Oh, I'm sorry, Patty Cakes. You might have to join me again. Like I said, it's acting strange. It's acting weird. I'll definitely bring you up. What I did want to do is I wanted to play for you guys the commercial for Peace Pads right now.
Begin your day with intellectual peace. Awakening surrounded by blossoms that reflect tranquility and comfort. Carry confidence through bustling streets and focused work sessions. Let the calm of intellectual peace guide you, keeping you poised and serene. Reclaim comfort in the evening. Relax and rejuvenate as blossoms gently remind you of peace. With intellectual peace, everyday blossoms. Discover
peacepads.net.
All right, sorry, you guys. Technical difficulties. I hope that commercial that was produced by our Riza Islam, and he is the founder of Peace Pads, right? And Brother Muko, if I can get your comment, Brother Muko, I'm just trying to let everybody see it. It says, maybe 7 years ago, my brother made sponsored a natural tampon and maxi pad because of the ammonia, right? There are chemicals put in these pads and tampons. A lot of the material, old newspaper, right, and other toxic things go into maxi pads, sanitary napkins. They are not sanitary by any means because cancer, fibroids, and thyroid is to act up in them. Exactly. Yeah, it does. It causes a lot of different endocrine disruptors, and that's what they were talking about in the research that I did. And so, Patty Cakes, I'm going to add you to the stage. Hopefully, this works this time, and you can hear me. Oh my goodness, just trying to hang in there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
I can't
now.
hear you yet. Start talking.
Okay, wait. Hey, I'm talking.
Still
Can you
can't
hear
hear
me?
you off mic, but I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Then
Now
it's
I
probably
can hear you. Okay, I'm so sorry.
No, no, no,
The
no. It was
wonderful
acting up on
internet.
my end as well. But you can hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay. So what would you like to talk about today?
Okay,
Hear you
so
fine.
I want to first pray for the Black Americans in New York. Um, I don't know how this is going to
Okay.
affect the reparations movement that you all are doing up there, but I suggest you got to get your mama, aunties,
Mm,
uncles to these reparation commission meetings because like he said,
yes.
this is a city ran by immigrants, built by immigrants. I don't know. Okay. um Also, I wanted to comment that you have brought Barack Obama back from the dead. Now he's going to be in our face and he's going to be all over the place. Uh okay. I gotta get over that. That's just me, whatever. Also, I wanted to comment on what the Democratic Party is. It is now the party of immigrants, aka
Mhm.
residents. So when we
Yeah.
see the Democrats in Congress, and they say, "Well, we're fighting for
Mhm.
health care for our quote unquote residents," that means immigrants. So let's keep that in mind.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you know, as far as supporting black businesses, yeah, I think this is a wake up call for the black American community. I
Mhm.
stress that getting our own businesses, supporting our own businesses, not only that, like you mentioned earlier, supporting our candidates. I don't care how you feel about certain people on X app or any other app. We have got to now the real thing is support our candidates, point blank and period, so that we don't
Yeah.
die out. And so the solution
Right.
is, and I like that Chat GPT did say, to build there are there's a young man that actually he is building a site where it's all black owned businesses. There are other places where there are
Okay.
um, giving these black owned businesses and all kind of like our Green Book 2.0 or something. And so we got to get a hold of that. We
Yeah.
got to start sharing that, and we have to start supporting our brothers and sisters out here.
Amen.
Yeah. So thanks for letting me speak. I got to run, but you have a blacktastic day, founder.
Can you still hear me? Okay. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you, and thanks for sharing all of the information. Thank you, Patty Cakes, for joining us. And sharing. I want to share my screen again, because I'm moving a lot slower in my picture than normal. Oh, when you're working, okay? When you're working, that's the best. That is the best one. That's the one I enjoy. Anyway, so I definitely want to encourage you guys to check out Peace Pads. Again, this was founded and created by our brother Riza Islam and Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner. Okay, I guess that's the inventor. Okay. All right. So this is the person who actually invented, it's called the sanitary belt, and a predecessor to the pad. Okay. And so this is what was originally developed, right, in the 50s by Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner, the sanitary belt, right, to hold the pad in place. Okay. And what RZA did is he went a step further to develop the peace pads with actual, right? And so these are some of the resources here that you can look through at peacepads.org. And so I will definitely make sure to have this in the repost of the stream, and I'll make sure to tag RZA in there so you can give him some big ups for definitely loving our community, especially loving our women, right, that bring forth life. Okay. And this is for all women, right? Black women, Asian women, have. And I want to say you can do, yeah, there it is. You can do a subscription, right? Some people want to do a whole pack, and that's $35 a month, or you can just do one pack and it's $7.49 a month. They've got overnight, heavy flow, and that's like $8 a month. I mean, that's pretty expensive because it's something that you're actually going to use every single month. So, just to stay ahead of the game. Beautiful packaging. I want to say he's got a distribution center not too far from where I am here in Henry County. And I'm just so grateful and appreciative for his heart, for his love, for just loving on our women in the community. And Black Flag, thank you so much. Black Flag says, great day to you, Black America. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. And I'm so apologetic to everybody who joined me this morning. And the space kind of crashed out, but it didn't let go. The stream's still going. So hopefully you guys were able to continue to watch or at least listen in from wherever you are. And with that, I want to just thank everybody for joining me here this morning on Women and Wellness Wednesday. Patty Cakes, thank you so much for joining us here this morning on the show and just praying for New York City. And like she said, let's make sure that we are supporting our candidates out there. And you know what? Some of our candidates might not be Black. Okay. Some of them might be white. Some might be Asian. I don't know. I don't know. But we need to put people in office who are about America first, right? I'm very appreciative of those who acknowledge and respect the harms, I should say, that have happened in the Black community, and they don't want any more harm to come to the Black community. And that's where RFK is. When he was asked about reparations, he said it's more than money. He wants to make sure people have their education set up, that they can start businesses, right? That they're in great health, right? That they are not in food deserts. So he gets it, he understands it. Okay. And again, make sure you support our brother RZA Islam with Peace Pads, and you can find that product at peacepads.org. That's peacepads.org. And I will make sure again to put the link in in the repost of this stream. And if, as you're going through your shopping cart, and it asks like where you heard about this product, just say Unfiltered Vision News, right? He kind of knows who I am. I did get a chance and opportunity to meet him at the launch of his products. So, with that, I just want to thank everybody again for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.